Well, welcome everyone, and welcome, of course, to our next Codon ring. And this week's or this coming month's Codon ring is the Ring of Humanity. And this Codon ring is brought to you by the 16th letter of the Hebrew alphabet, also known as Ayin. So Ayin, or 16, deals with our capacity to see. How do we perceive things in life? How do we see? Are we seeing through light or darkness? And it is also, the 16 is a physical number, so it has to do with our ability to, or what are we grounding into the earth plane? What are we delivering to life? And before I talk about the codon ring, I just want to talk a little bit about this progression of numbers from 14, 15, and 16. So you can kind of get an idea how these Hebrew numbers all build on top of each other. So the 14th letter, which we haven't covered yet, is Nun, which is the fish, the ocean, the waters. And it is the Nun, the 14, the water that gives 14 is the water or the energy that gives you life. And then 15, or Samek, which we did maybe the last time or the time before, is the spinning energy, the spinning action, or your Ouroboros, which is that spot behind your navel, just like the Dantian spot behind your navel that creates your support system, your everlasting energetic support. So 15 is the spin of our energy from 14, and 16, and just speaking about the spin, the 16 would ask, what are you spinning? Are you spinning the darkness, or are you spinning, let's do counterclockwise, spinning the darkness? Or perhaps if you're so stuck in ego, you're not spinning at all, or you're spinning darkness, you're stuck in heavy, angry emotions, and that's what you're spitting out to the world. And that's what the 16 is all about. From that spinning, what are you delivering out into the world? So the 16 is the delivery mechanism, or the grounding after the spinning energy. So hopefully we're all spinning clockwise and spinning light into the world. So that's kind of the progression, 14, 15, and 16. So here we are with 16. How do we perceive life? Who's the perceiver? And what are we delivering into this earth plane? So let's go back to the codon ring that is under the Hebrew letter 16. And it's the codon ring of humanity. And it has gene keys 10, 17, 21, 25, 38, and 51. And this codon ring all of these gene keys deal with the sacred wounds of humanity. The one sacred wound that gives rise to kind of the base sacred wounds of all humanity. This is really easy for me to say. And so it's all about the real base suffering of humans, which is like our suffering comes from being self-obsessed, me, from the mind and its opinions and judgments, and stuck in concepts. It is our struggle for need for control, or that we have any control. We have this delusion of control, free will. Do we have free will? No free will. Yes, I can make a choice. This is my decision. Yeah, we think we're all in control. What else? And then it's the real sacred heart wound, which causes constriction, which we don't breathe. And so we're not spinning any energy, any life force. And then it is the belief that life is a struggle. We're always going to have ups and downs. Life is suffering. So struggle. And all of this leads to just a general agitation in life. Like, oh, everything is just, I'm just so agitated, because we don't feel like we're truly living in our bodies. And we aren't, because we're so constricted, we're so resistant, that we just do not feel settled. And of course, from the level of the 16, the ego or the darkness level of the 16, this is all, this is the darkness. So this is how we're perceiving the world. And then from the 16 perspective, if once we begin on the spiritual journey, we are kind of disciplining the ego. We're becoming aware of all of our stuff and we're kind of boxing it up. And I'm going to go back to my hoarding analogy. We're starting to box things up and we're clearing a path. So ego is getting disciplined. It's actually you're getting a healthy ego, because even the ego can now begin to witness the ego. And when I say ego, I include mind, the ego mind. And then we develop, so this is kind of the middle or the gift level of the 16, which is the gift level of all the gene keys. We begin letting go of our resistance to oneness. We are developing discipline, and we develop gifts like naturalness, farsightedness, authority, acceptance, perseverance, and initiative or initiation. And then beyond that, which the 16 wants to push people that stop here at this journey, beyond this into awakened consciousness or the light level. This is where consciousness has woken up to itself by itself. The ego and the mind and the personality are not involved in this aspect. And the ego is being dissolved. And so you're living in a state of beingness, omniscience, valor, universal love, honor, and awakening. So these are the qualities of the 16, as well as the gene keys that are included in this ring of humanity. So let me show you a picture of Ayin. So let's see, share screen and share. And let me move that for me. So here's Ayin. And the question is, how do we perceive life? Do we perceive, and these, and do we perceive with our two evil eyes, right? Our physical eyes, or do we perceive with our inner eye, our inner sight? Or you can look at it as, are we stuck in one half of our brain, perhaps the male, well, I shouldn't say male, but the analytical brain, where we're stuck in mechanical imagination, fantasy, daydreaming, and all of this fantasy and daydreaming, which is a result or filtered by ego, fear, anger, lust, and pride? Or have we balanced these two brains in awakened consciousness, and now we're having conscious imagination and kind of living in a state of samadhi, which is outside of the prison of the ego? Now, I wanted to share this little, this picture, so you can see the progression of the symbol of the 16th letter. And you can see here the early Hebrew symbol looked just like an eye. And the 16 is all about going within. And I think that this symbol is a perfect symbol, and it's the eye. And of course, nothing exterior, all the good stuff, let's just say, is within the pupil. The real student or pupil is within. So the 16 is always telling us we must go to our internal eye, our internal sight, because whatever's on the outside, the color of the eyes, the skin around it, the eyelashes, is just all false, okay? And what we see, our eyes are so tied up with the ego because we've grown up looking at things and developing concepts. Like, we can't look at anything without seeing or saying, that's a tree, that's a dog, that's a house, and having concepts attached to them. And what the 16 wants you to do is go within, awaken that pupil inside of you, the true pupil, the true student, so that when you wake up, you are perceiving things outside of the concepts and the constructs of the mind and the body. You're seeing outside of yourself, but seeing from within. Okay. All right. So we'll stop share and let's move on. So the 16 is called the Illuminator of the self. And the is, sorry, the statement attached to the 16 is the illuminator of the self is the I. And perhaps you've heard this saying that the I is the lamp of the body. And if thine eye be singular, your body shall be full of light. And I think that translation has been misconstrued, particularly perhaps in maybe new age circles, that, singular eye, then it's the third eye. And if you're developing your psychic skills, clairvoyant skills, or, developing, say, perhaps your lower chakra, third eye stuff, then your body's going to be full of light. You're on the path of light. And that's not really what this saying means. It comes, the Greek translation is the I is the illuminator of the Soma. And Soma literally means body, but it's not referring to the physical body. It's referring to the soul, the body of the soul, man's consciousness. So the I is the illuminator of man's consciousness. And if thine eye be singular, the Greek translation does not mean one. It means clear, simple, uncomplicated, and pure. So man's consciousness must be pure, purified, and uncomplicated, therefore creating light in the body, which meaning not the physical body, the soul body. Okay. So let me see, what else did I write here? Also, let me see. And what the I is referring to, let me see here. How do I want to say this? Because the 16 is referring to the big I, and maybe not the I, but the I, the big I, who is the true perceiver of things. And so when we're turning within, the 16 wants you to close your physical eyes and go within and let the true seer see. And here's what it's saying is that everything physical, your eyes are just physical instruments. So like a radio or a television or your phone, they're tools. They're receiving information externally, right? Receiving. And when you close your eyes, so these are all tools of perception, your brain, everything. But who is the one who's actually seeing? Because your eyes aren't seeing. They are the object that is the tool, but who is the subjects? So when we close our eyes and we're not receiving that kind of information, right there, you're in touch with this invisible perceiver that's outside of any physical form. You can't even see it. So that's the true I. That is the illuminator of the soul. Maybe not so much the I, but the I, the big I. Okay, I'm going to have to put you on pause for just 1 second. I guess my little kitty cat did not like the 20-degree weather outside. He couldn't stand it for more than 30 seconds. Okay. So where were we? I'll just go through the qualities of the 16. So the 16 is all about awakened consciousness or sleeping consciousness. The 16 at the higher levels is called divine sight. And this is when the soul has reached its diamond level of consciousness. And this is awakened consciousness. This is the seer who has woken up to itself by itself. No help with the ego or the mind. The personality has nothing to do with the awakening. It is that invisible force that awakens by itself. And I suspect, and that awakened consciousness, and I don't know I think it was in the last video, maybe I shared an experience about the seer was out. So the 16 has landed, at least at a certain level, has landed within me. The seer is now outside of my body and is seeing things, although I'm seeing from within, if that makes sense. My seeing is outside of the body and seeing from outside of the whole egoic personality structure. And that has very much stabilized. I'm not saying that the ego structure has been dissolved or annihilated, but it is outside. Now the seer is awake, okay? And I suspect when they talk about the diamond level of consciousness, that this might, you can probably correlate this to when Kundalini reaches that Makara point, the higher brow chakra, which is the breaking through the diamond hard cap. So I'm just drawing a little correlation that might be relevant here. Okay, so we got that. So the 16, we move a little bit further, lower level, or maybe gift level, is all about our consciousness or conscience. That's it. Our spiritual vision, intuition, knowing what is right and wrong, and how we perceive and how we receive. And do we receive? Do we even care to check in for guidance from God? And what I was saying earlier, the big message from the 16 is we can't really go beyond the gift level without meditation. Now, I know a lot of you watching this may be involved with the gene keys, and that the whole gene keys is based on contemplation. And contemplation is beautiful and wonderful. Was my main method, but really, in order to reach perhaps acidic levels and awakening consciousness, can't do it without meditation. That's my humble opinion. And I'm just going to be real. You can't do it without meditation. And so that is the message from the 16. You have to be able to look within, introspection, have meditation to use your inner sight to shine light on the darkness within your mind. And this is also how we actually ground spirit into the world, is through meditation. And I'll just share, when the 16 talks about meditation, this is kind of, we have to break free of all those guided meditations. They're great to relax you a little bit, but you have to be willing to sit without anything else distracting your mind, without having your mind entertained by some beautiful images of relaxation. It's in the silence, in the darkness, in the stillness where all of this will happen. And this is kind of how the 16 would like you to do your meditation. You close your eyes, right? Get rid of those evil eyes. That's what they call your physical eyes, the evil eyes. And by the way, I'm going to take a side trip here. That when we're spinning darkness into the world, particularly lust or anger, those very strong energies, and we are looking and directing that hate and lust and anger at someone, that we are actually doing and can do physical harm if it goes on long enough or strong enough. And I say this particularly, that when some creep is looking at you, particularly women, and man is looking at you in a very alluring way, can you not feel it? And children are especially vulnerable to this when there are adults or anyone who's leering lustfully at children. This can be very, very harmful. And if gone on long enough, it can actually cause serious health or death. So the evil eye is a real thing. We have evil eyes when we're looking at somebody and we don't like them. that comes into their subtle body. And if it's strong enough, it can shoot a pain into them. So we have to be really careful how we're using our eyes and our what are we spinning out into the world through our eyes. So 16 says, close your eyes. And it wants you to totally relax, 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 and let go of the physical body. Just let go, let go, let go. And I'm kind of going to lead you into a little meditation, but not really. And then we let go of the emotions that we're feeling. Just let it go. Let go of the mind and just kind of physically see that you're, letting go of the mind. And it's kind of like, you see the brain and just see it kind of melting away, and you let that all go. And the next thing that you let go of is any desire or expectation for anything to happen. You have to let go of anything, because anytime you step into a meditation with a want, you're going to block yourself. Okay. So we let go of all desire. And then at that point, you always hear that there's focus. We want to use focus in meditation, because what focus does, it's not to develop concentration, is that when we're focusing, now we're using our inner sight and we're focusing on our higher chakra point, higher brow chakra point. We're looking within. When we're focused, when the inner pupil is focused, then what you'll notice is everything in your body starts to become still. And that's the reason for focusing. And this is where the inner sight, the divine sight, happens. And so we focus for stillness, and you'll actually may even see that your spine begins to straighten and everything inside of you becomes still, quiet, silent. And it's right there when you hit that still point, right there. That's when the pupil and the true I within can wake up. And then you go beyond the mind, the prison of the ego, and then you're seeing things and being the true seer. Okay, so that's the kind of meditation the 16 would like you to embark on. Okay, moving along. The 16, that's all I have to say about the 16, but now just some properties of the 16. So the star sign that I've associated with it is Capricorn. The major arcana is the devil, because it's all about our shadows and then releasing of the shadows. The archetype that I have associated is the wise elder, the executive advisor, manager. The spiritual principle is integrity. Remember, we're talking about conscience. Boy, that's a hard word to say. So let's talk about, so the spiritual principle is integrity within and without. And it's plan your work and work your plan. So let's talk about some of the shadow aspects of the 16. So if you see the 16 in your life, you are being rigid, controlling anger or angry. You could be stingy, pessimistic, unadventurous, impulsiveness. You can definitely be hardened by and for love, or the spiritual energy, anything spiritual. You've just got a hardened sense about you. And this is due to, perhaps how you were raised, okay? Other possible karmic tendencies would be remember, this is about conscience, okay? This is about being morally and ethically in alignment, in integrity. So if you're out of it, tendency for not telling the truth, being negative, refusing to accept spirituality or love or anything, any niceties, just kind of got a cold thing going on. And this is, and heavy emotions are stuck in the body. So you may have liver issues. Tendency to be like the rebel, always going against something, right? Fighting change, and particularly about any kind of personal growth. Difficulty accepting love and the love vibration, which means spiritual vibration, and doing things that are outside moral and ethical lines. So on the positive, of course, it's all the opposite of that. And we can look at the 16 as two separate numbers or coming from two separate rays. The first ray of will and power and the sixth ray of faith and idealism merged into one. So it's all about being in alignment with the divine will, having strength, authority, discipline, moral and ethical behavior, prudent, authoritative, reliable, sensible, ambitious, enterprising. Let's see what else. Determined. You are aligned with what is holy and good, aligned with the divine will, and doing things with others, others in mind. How will my actions affect others? And the sixth ray is living within faith, within the spiritual laws, having perseverance, being kind of group-minded, being very loyal, problem solving. And the sixes are all about planning their work and working their plan. Just being very unimpulsive, just being very in integrity. And the sixes are all about light warriors and keeping your connection to spirit, being kind to all people. And when you're living within the 16, then you become the beacon of light for others around you. Okay, so that's the lovely 16. Who is the I that is seeing through you? Okay, all for now. Bye.